You didn't cop the worst of the conditions?
No, it's a bit of a shame, I guess. I don't mind driving in the rain, although I must admit these conditions were appalling. The visibility is the biggest problem. That's what everyone was talking about. Nobody minds the weather if it's raining and it's slipping and sliding. But when you can't see the car in front of you, that's the biggest problem, and that's what most of the people were complaining about.
Well, you're driving a Sierra. A moment ago, there's your car in there now. A moment ago, we spoke to Dick Johnson about the problems of driving a Sierra in conditions like this.
Sure, they've probably got to be the hardest car when you say that, because the horsepower comes in with a bit of a rush. They're very short wheelbase, fairly narrow tyres, compared to some of the others. And I guess, you look at the Nissan. The Nissan is the car, of course, and then the Falcon and the Commodore, they're a bit longer wheelbase, normally aspirated. You can sort of progressively put the power on and just feed the power into it, let the car just sort of slide, and you can control the slide with the amount of power, and off you go. The turbo car does create that problem, of course.
So the Nissan's the one to beat. Just finally, Colin, on a very sad note, Denny Holm had a heart attack today and passed away. I mean, you've raced against him so often in the past. It must be a terrible loss, not only to all of his friends and relatives in New Zealand, but to the racing community here and around the world.
Sure. I mean, Denny has been racing, gosh, a very long time, and he's walked out of some monumental crashes in the old sports car days and things, and to think that he'd die just like that, which obviously was a heart attack or something, because there's very little damage done to the motor car, and I just think that to see the car just going down the straight, bouncing off a wall, having the brakes on, the driver wasn't trying to control the car by steering it or taking the brakes off and getting it on. There was definitely something wrong at that particular point, and I just, when you saw the ambulance there had to be something like that.
Yes, it's a devastating day for motor racing. Colin, thank you for your time. Sure. And bad luck for your performance this year. It hasn't been the best for the Caltex team today. We go back to you, Mike.
Thank you, Bruce, and thank you, Colin. Colin, of course, knew Denny very well, and a tough day for Colin, not only as a competitor but also the president of the Australian Racing Drivers Club. In the meantime, the cars are out on the racetrack sitting behind the pace car. We'll check them out on the race score. Jimmy Richards and Mark Skate continue to lead over their teammates. Niels on wheels, Crompton and Anders Olofsson. Third, Dickie Johnson, John Bowe. Fourth, Tony Longhurst. Keep an eye on him when it gets dry. And running in the fifth spot is Gibbs and Onslow. Don't go away. We'll be back in a tick. 7 of 161. It's going to be a long day at the mountain here. Hope you're enjoying the 7 Networks coverage of this great event. And to our viewers, TV3 throughout New Zealand, bringing you that very sad news a little earlier about the death of Denny Holm here today at Mount Panorama. To our viewers across the BBC and, of course, through Screen Sport and Star Television in Hong Kong. The great race will continue. We'll be back to green flag racing in just a moment, because the pace car has the light off and it is bringing the field down the straight as the number 10 Moffat car, the Synovus Vitamins entry, is back in the pits.
They were running in 9th position at the time they went to the pits, but they'll want to get a move on with racing, about to resume.
You can see how that line's drying out, Gary. It's going to affect the tyre selections. I know that the Shell team are down there with a set of intermediates ready to go. We've had the opera glasses on those, and the boys are going to be working out now with this blue sky imminent whether they want to go and do intermediates and move to slicks, or whether they're going to stay out on these wets to the point where they can do the one tyre change before they run home.
Well, it's a critical decision too.
Certainly is. We've got the light out on the pace car. It, as pulls off, is car number 1. The leading Nissan leads them up.
Sunshine for the first time today here at Mount Panorama.
A special word of thanks, I guess, today to Nigel Greenway, Phil Harrison and our crew outside our commentary spot. They've been through all the bad weather. They do a wonderful job. The rest of the cast, Tim Grant, Alf Grant and the Sizzler Nissan Skyline, go through there on the way up to the mountain.
What we've got to do next year is get Nigel some waterproof ink.
Wayne Park, David Parsons' car also heads up the mountain. Alan Jones has stepped into the number 30 Peter Jackson Falcon. Andrew Harris going through there in car number 41. The car from Metropolis. And they're still in there.
Not only are they still in there, I think the team sponsor, John Trimble, is the man behind the wheel.
he had a problem, as you recall, here on Friday.
Yes.
Where he had a problem with the car. It caught fire. Forgot to get the fuel pumps off. And buried it in the wall, and it virtually burnt to the ground. It's running 13th at the moment. Andrew Harris.
Sponsored by the Daily Planet, a notorious house. A house of ill fame. I have their brochure here, Mike. I'll just pass that
No,
across
I
to you.
think I'll be right, thank you, Doug. I'm not touching that with a barge pole on Sunday afternoon.
In fact, when he ran into the wall the other day, Trimble definitely driving, we just had that confirmed, when he put it into the wall the other day, someone had the audacity to refer to it as a cock-up. I thought that was most unfortunate.
To the top of the mountain, to his turn. John Trimble find the conditions here today a little more pleasant than on Friday when they ran out of extinguishers.
I wonder what rubber he's using.
Coming in now for a Prima Holidays pit report, it's the number 18 car. John Brady is the man on the spot.
Yes, thanks very much, Mike. Terry Shield about to hop into the car. The question, as Doug quite rightly pointed out, is just what they were going to do with tyres, and they've been debating that for a little while. They've got the intermediates, which are the hand groove slicks on the car, or about to go on the car at the moment. They've also got a bit of a problem under the engine, which I don't think they expected on the way in. But it's certainly off at the moment. So this is something they didn't need. They've already had a couple of dents around the front. In fact, the whole front spoiler's just hanging on by a thread at the moment with a bit of tape. Up and running now. And it's been a bit longer than they would have expected, but the real car running for them at the moment is the 17 car, and what they'll be hoping to do, in fact, they haven't gone for the tyre change even, so they're still running the full wets. What they were hoping to do was make up their mind a little with this car, so that with the 17 car they could make a more solid decision about which was the right tyre to be on, but they're obviously holding off on that for a while longer.
Thank you, Johnny. Cars come down. Subaru straight towards Caltex Chase, 18. The pits was 7th on the road when it went into the pits.
Perkins has just left the pits as well after a very lengthy stop. I don't know what the problem was there. I think that may have been that alternator trouble again. But he's back out and circulating.
The group of the Corollas we were following a little earlier. We'll be back to them and see how things are panning out in the Corolla class, the baby car class, in this year's Tui's 1000. 55 car comes into the pits. Andrew Badecki and Troy Dunstan.
There's been some front end damage there.
Placings have not changed, by the way, Michael, in the 1600cc class. It's still the Bates twins in car 70, leading that category from car 71, Verheyen and Full in second place, and car 74 is third, Jason and Scotty Bargwana.
I thought they drove rolls, the Bargwanas.
I thought they made gearboxes. But it's notable that car 70, the leading car in that class, has now moved into the top 20 outright.
That's outstanding, isn't it?
There's the Moore Gardner car again, the Strathfield Car Radio's Triple M car. They have replaced that tail shaft, and they're back out there.
Greg Easton from 4KQ in Brisbane in this little Corolla entry.
He's a jock, isn't he?
Yes, he is.
Must be very hard to drive with one hand on the wheel and one hand casually positioned over the left here.
This is Terry Finnegan in the Food Towns Commodore. Gary Rogers sharing the drive here with him, and they're up to 14th position and moving. They've passed a couple of cars since the pace car left the track just a lap and a half ago, and so they're on the move. They've been circulating very consistently all day, staying completely out of trouble, which is more than a lot of the competitors here can say today, considering the conditions. As I said, they're in 17th position. A good job so far. In fact, up to 17th.
Great shot as we follow the cars down Subaru Straight. Let's go down to the Alan Moffat pits, and Mark Oastler joins us there.
Yes, Mike, you won't believe the bad luck that's befallen Alan Moffat once again. Rear differential has failed, and Alan's been in here for 2 or 3 minutes already. Greg Hansford sitting disconsolately at the wheel. You can see the work going on under the car. These 9-inch differentials were developed in Australia because they were supposed to be bulletproof compared to the original diff setup that the Sierra had. They should be able to run thousands of kilometres without any trouble. But bad luck has befallen Alan Moffat once again. Differential failure on the car 10 when it was running in a very strong 8th position.
Another piece of brilliant 7 technology there that we now kind of take for granted. We affectionately call it stick cam. And without getting in anybody's way, this tiny camera at the end of about an 8-10 foot rod, you can just slip it under the car, catch all of the action without inconveniencing the pit crew in this critical work.
Interesting stuff now on top of the mountain. Dickie Johnson at the wheel of the 17 car, and car number 2, Anders Olofsson back in that car. Signalling to the drivers as they come through there on the way to Forest Elbow. Well, we have the traces of a dry line starting.
And traces of competition as a result. It's definitely going to make for more interesting viewing, I'm pleased to say.
It's the battle for second.
Another drama, Mike. Look, oil flags are out. We've got oil on the track somewhere.
We'll have to follow that. Now Johnson trying to stretch the Sierra. He's running second on the road at the moment behind Mark Scaife and Jimmy Richards, and the man sitting behind him is Anders Olofsson in the number 2 Winfield Nissan GTR. The only man standing between them and a 1-2 for the afternoon is Dickie Johnson at the moment.
And they're gobbling him up there under brakes at the bottom of Conrod.
Well, they will in the wet. Now Olofsson coming straight down on the inside. This is how easy it is. He can run through there. There's not a dry line there. The car doesn't get sideways at all. Johnson closes it up. Now Johnson's getting egged into a bit of a race here, which he really doesn't need. And a straight line, if they could find a bit of straight line here, it'd be interesting to see what Dick can do with the GTR, but it's like waltzing on ice at the top of the mountain because there's no dry line up there. Look at this, Dick. I don't know if he appreciated that.
Well, Dick would want to be in front going over the top of the mountain because that's where the Nissan has the biggest advantage with the four-wheel drive in these damp conditions.
My information was that they've already rolled the slick tyres out for the next pit stop for the 17 car.
It's a moment with one of the little cars.
We're now at the halfway distance as car 74 takes a little reverse there into a break in the wall. That's the Peter Verheyen and Jeffrey Full class leaders, by the way. I think they might have just about given up that position now to car 71.
AJ heads into the pits in the Peter Jackson EV Falcon V8.
He's having a little drink while he sits there. No driver change, which is a pity. I'd like you to have seen his white shoes. We noticed earlier that
they're Michael originals, aren't they?
Alan Jones is wearing white driving shoes. He is a Queenslander after all. I'm sorry, Gary Wilkinson, I forget. I forget you've migrated.
Defected.
Hasn't been, as Mark Osler reported earlier, the best of days for Alan Moffat, who apart from being a great team owner is also a member of our 7 sports team, so you can stand down there and commiserate with my old pal.
Yeah, commiserations indeed, Michael. Alan Moffat, your 6th attempt at Bathurst in a Ford Sierra, differential problems.
Well, I won't say we haven't been here before, but this time I'm sure it's not actually the crown wheel and pinion burned out. We appear, but the oil that's come up on the back, that we've lost the oil seal. We run these things in with tender loving care. This unit went in on Saturday afternoon for the last session. We had no reason to suspect it. You have to try your best, and you do your best, but sometimes you start chasing the technology. I think next time I'm here, I'll have about 10 oil seals on the net.
Alan, that's effectively the end of the Sierra era at Bathurst. What happens next year?